Out to the polo grounds. He said, you see, Mayor, here we are at the polo grounds. Not one place for the fans to park. He said, someday I'd like to have a stadium where there is parking.
As life changed in the 1950s, after the war, as the affluent people started moving en masse to the suburbs, they were the ticket buyers, they were the customers. Everyone in baseball at that time had fixed in his mind that the key thing was to get enough parking.
I said, how much were you thinking of? He said, I'd want like 12,000 parking spaces. So I came back home and I got to my engineers, how much land would we need for 12,000 parking spaces? He said, well, you need around 75 to 76 acres. I said, where the devil do you find 75 acres of land in San Francisco?
Developer Charles Harney owned a considerable parcel of land at the southeast edge of the city on Candlestick Point. Harney sold it to the city, and the Giants were sold on San Francisco.
This place was chosen and approved by Horace Stoneham. He never would have moved out of New York if he didn't have the 10,000 parking spaces. It's that simple.
I mean, I remember from the day it was announced that it was being built at Candlestick Point, the first thing people said was, where's Candlestick Point? I was born and raised in San Francisco and never knew where Candlestick Point was. And the second was, God, you're going to freeze your buns off out there.
People didn't make as much fuss in those days about the inadequacies or discomforts of places in all respects, not only for baseball, but life in general. You know, you took discomfort for granted to a degree that since then we don't.
In those days, the creature comforts weren't that much a part of the experience. The ownership in those days said, open the gates and let them in. It's baseball, for crying out loud.
I think I bought the tickets 4 or 5 months ahead of time. I wanted to make sure I had seats. It was a big event.
I thought the park was awesome when we walked in and saw it. You know, everything was brand spanking new, everything had a shine to it. The president-to-be was there on the bench, Richard Nixon.
I didn't know who was Nixon. I didn't know. Bill Ridley called him and said, Orlando, this is Nixon. I said, who is Nixon?
Nixon and the stick, forever linked, forever striving for the respect of history. To this day, some see Nixon as a victim brought down by a hostile press. To this day, some see Candlestick the same way.
If there was a little wind, I said, well, that's what I came out for. I'm locked up all day. I want a little wind and a little fresh air. I've been to many ball games where I see these youngsters running around with no shirt on even, bare-chested. And the next day I would read in the paper that we were out at windswept Candlestick Park yesterday. So it became a habit. It became a habit of just calling it windswept Candlestick Park.
Only one Giant has survived the entire 40-year history of Candlestick Park on active duty.
Hi, I'm Mike Murphy. I'm with the San Francisco Giants. I've been here for, I guess, a million years now. I've been here for 42 years, doing the same job, which I love, and here I am.
Oh yeah, he's a fixture there. There'll probably be a monument to Murph at Candlestick Point.
Talk about a guy who has seen things. You know, he assigns players numbers. He assigns them lockers. You know, players cry on his shoulder when they get cut. I think that the scariest thing is if Murph ever decided to write a book. I think, you know, I think a lot of people would pay him not to write it.
Mays kept everybody alive. You know, he was funny as a wick, and everybody used to tease him all the time, play jokes on him. The biggest practical joker we dealt with was Chris Spire. He used to pull jokes on a lot of people. Him and Chris Arnold used to tie up people's shoes, nail their shoes to the parquet floor. Bobby Mercer, he was the one that couldn't take this place. He said, if I can get bomb, I'll blow this place up and get rid of it. And this is my dog, Bose. She's the clubhouse dog. She follows me everywhere. Well, a lot of these fond memories of this tunnel is where a lot of ball players walked through last time. I've seen a few ball players walk through here, come up here and get released. We used to call it the Tunnel of Hate. Bobby Mercer used to call it the Tunnel of Hate. And we come over here, and I'm really miss the ballpark, and this is it. We're down on the field.
4 numbers hang on the right field fence at Candlestick. honoring 4 giant legends who earned immortality in this ballpark, or maybe in spite of it.
I'm sure that Mays, in all probabilities, if it wasn't for the wind blowing from left center to right field, he hit a lot of balls that would have been home runs.
When I came to Candlestick, we couldn't even hit the ball out in batting practice, and I knew I had a problem right there. I had 2 different types of swings. One was I pull the ball on the road, and San Francisco hit more to right center. He adjusted to the point where he could drive the ball to right center and get his homers that way. But you know, you've heard the old tale that if he and Hank Aaron switched uniforms, it would have been Willie that had the 750 homers. You can't hit a home run off of a ballpark. You hit it off a pitcher.
There's a swing and a long drive to deep right center field.
Of course, I lost a lot of home runs here, but I couldn't worry about that. I have 660 home runs.
And the fans go wild.
Winning was more important than hitting a home run to me.
He's probably the best center fielder in baseball today, and especially in the National League, because of the fact he has to play with an outfield that has terrific wind.
You find outfielders, a great number of outfielders who make the mistake of drifting to the ball. Mays ran to the spot where it was going to come down, unless it was a desperate thing where he was stepping on his tongue, running so hard to get to it. He would run, get to the spot, then he could adjust. And in this wind, you have to be able to adjust.
Never bothered him to win or win in or out. He just did his job.
Mays hits it into left field. There goes number 3,000. Willie Mays gets his 3,000th base hit.
I loved Willie McCovey because he was the biggest and he was the strongest and he was the quietest. Everyone was afraid of Willie, though. You know, you didn't know as a child to even talk to Willie because Willie was always so quiet. You know, and then you go up to Willie and say, "Hi, Willie." You go, "Hi," and you're like, "Oh, okay, we can't mess with him."
I knew he was going to hit one in the bay one day because he'd hit some balls that cleared the parking lot, and you just wondered those balls had to go 600 or 700 feet. He'd hit it hard, and he had great power, and then all of a sudden it would get up in that wind, and it just disappear. What a thrill that was to watch.
McCovey connects solidly with all his 200 pounds behind the swing. It's going, it's gone.
Most people are under the impression that the wind blew straight out the right field, which is a misconception. It really didn't. So it really took away a lot of home runs away from me, because balls that were hit down the line that would have stayed fair in most ballparks, it blew them foul.
It hurt him because the cold was always bothering his knees. And to think of him to go on and hit 521 homers is pretty amazing.
But I can still see him over there at first base, you know, in between innings, you know, giving us ground balls with that big, long, underhanded flip throw, you know, and class. I mean, you talk about class, that's him personified.
Marichal really got the advantage here in this part. Left-handed hitter, Juan had the advantage, and then because the wind is blowing from left to home plate. From the right side, the wind hits you back. But from the left side, the wind is blowing right in your face, and you in the middle of the swing of the pitch is coming, and you can get blurry because the dust come out.
I think maybe the greatest game played at Candlestick was the game that Warren Spahn and Marichal hooked up for 16 innings, and we won it 1-0 in the bottom of the 16th off Mays' home run. I kind of consider that the greatest game I've ever played in.
It was very cold, it was foggy. And Juan Marichal, in the 15th inning, he was throwing nothing but fastball. And Warren Spahn, 42 years old, throwing nothing but fastball.
The next day, I can remember them both standing in the runway between the clubhouses, just kind of slumped over and saying, "How did this happen, and what a great ball game." And they really had great respect for each other.
Spahn had the unmitigated gall to say that I pitched a better game than you did. And Maris said, "How can you say that? I beat you 1-0. And he said, "Well, I got a 3-ball count on only 4 guys. You got onto the 5. And that was Spahn's defense for losing 1-0.
Cepeda's outstanding for it. He could hit the ball as hard to right field as he could to left field.
The way the wind is to blow to right field, really, helped me.
Orlando Cepeda hammers the ball into deep right center. Mandel and Maris race for it. It's in between them for extra bases.
He had such a love for the game and a joy. I mean, and it was very genuine. It wasn't put on.
And every time I used to go to the batting circle, I used to talk to the fans over there and say hi, and they like that. This is a beautiful ballpark. I want to be my name, my number, to be there when they destroy this ballpark and carry the number to the other field.
Well, the happiest day was 1962 when we won the championship and we were going to the World Series. The saddest day was when Mr. Stoneham traded Mays to the New York Mets. That was one of my saddest days, seeing my idol leave. And this, as a matter of fact, this was Mays used to dress right here. We got Barry dressing there because that was his godson, and over here would be McCovey, and the other one would be Bobby Bonds. They used to all dress together. That was the saddest day of my life when we traded Willie to the New York Mets.
Somewhere between the happiest and the saddest moment will fall the moment Murph locks these clubhouse doors for the final time.
Something about it will touch us, I know it will. Not Mike, though. Hell, he just goes along his own way and just does the best job anybody's ever done in that capacity.
You know what? Knowing Murph is that he'll have a lot of emotions. He just won't show it. He'll say, eh. He said, eh, you know. But he might shed a tear. He might.
Football is not a game. When you're part of a football program, there's no room for mistakes. You've got to become a machine.
Nice seats, huh? Nice seats, huh?
It takes focus, determination, toughness, and focus.
You're taking your eyes off the ball game, son. Eat the dog and keep your eyes on the ball game.
I mean, clearly it's a lot of work, but when the whole team's counting on you, I mean, what choice do you have?
Come see Stanford play San Jose State this Saturday.
Cool breeze, right down by the bay. Right down by the bay.
They did not have the booths enclosed. Russ Hodges and I had done the Winter Olympics up at Squaw Valley. And we had big parkas, fur-lined parkas.
And then a couple of years later, of course, they put in the heating under the concrete that didn't work, and Melvin Belli sued them and won.
The guys had their little secrets, you know, things to do to kind of block the wind out and, you know, cover their whole bodies with Vaseline, then put their uniforms on just to kind of seal your pores so that the coldness wouldn't get in there.
It got to the point on the Giants where we were all going, you know, who's the toughest guy here? Nah, doesn't bother me. Doesn't affect me. Nah, I'm fine. Doesn't affect me. We were freezing.
But to those who were too young to know any better, Candlestick was always just fine.
We used to go in elementary school. They used to take us up in the buses. We'd sit in left field and yell at Willie all day. And, you know, if he looked at us, sort of, you know, that was, you know, that was a big deal, you know.
Before the Candlestick was enclosed, it was wide open in right field, and there was about 150 or 200 kids out there that would just live for Willie McCovey to come up during batting practice because it was a free-for-all for all the balls that he'd hit out there in that lot out there.
It was a great place to catch home run balls. And in the summer of 1961, between my brother and I, we caught 51 home run balls. We had a book on all the left-handed batters, and we also knew most of the players that went the opposite way. With McCovey, for instance, you'd always play him about 40 feet right off the foul pole. Frank Robinson, you shaded between the second and third set of bleachers. Orlando Cepeda pretty much the same way because Orlando liked to go to right center field a lot.
I can remember sitting in the section that's underneath the upper deck down the left field line. You know, you could see the ball pretty good, but once you took off and tried to make it over that little short railing to get to that open area, man, there's like 50 guys. They'd kill you. So I stayed away from it. To me, it was the greatest stadium in the world because it was where the Giants played.
The Giants wear a Panama suit.
You just want to live there. You don't even want to, you want to sleep, you want to eat there. You don't want to leave.
Some of the guys, they'd say they do it for free, but it's a lot of work.
How can you feel any better in your life on a day-to-day basis? Well, Lou Brinson, who was Eddie's assistant, treated us Bap was great because we would spend the night a lot. Well, when we got our work done, our treat was Lou would say, hey, let's go out, you guys. What are you talking about? Let's go out. We're going to play. I'll pitch to you guys. What? So we're going outside with partial lights on at the stick, and Lou's up there throwing to us in the stick, and we're out hitting. I go, I'm going to sleep in front of McCovey's locker tonight. I'm going to sleep in front of Sadek's locker. Or Duty, Darrell Evans. I'm going to sleep in front of his locker tonight. Are you kidding me? And you're going to sleep, dreaming?
He's just an extremely good worker, likes to be around ball players. And I think in payment to Pat, who doesn't make a heck of a lot of money, but what he does is he gets a good education from the ball players.
I mean, there were nights that you're going, they're playing this sport and this crap. You know, they're playing a baseball game tonight in this? Are you kidding me? You know, they're playing in a place that they're constantly going, well, let's see what you can do. But you have to pull that off 81 games, David. You have to pull it off.
I'd be hard-pressed to find another place that's had a more adverse effect on a franchise than Candlestick Park.
People think that we should have the advantage because we play here 81 games, but it's not so. Because the other team used to come here and they know 3 days and they leave. That's it. But for us that had to live here 81 days, it was very, very tough.
I don't think it was an advantage. I think if you're miserable, you're miserable. And the more games you're miserable there, it doesn't help you anymore.
I don't think there is another park in the world that has more of a home field advantage here than this yard.
The opposing team, really, more than people can even envision, they would look at the schedule and say, oh, we're going to San Francisco in 3 more weeks, 2 more weeks, 1 more week. Oh my God, I gotta get through these 3 days.
When Clemente would come in and Hank Aaron, they didn't want to play that night game at Candlestick Park. And a lot of times they'd take themselves out of that game.
They would come up with some of the strangest ailments, yeah, to get out of the lineups, yeah.
Visiting teams would come in here, and you could just honestly look at them and know their heart was not in it.
This place sucks. I mean, that's all there is to it. It sucks.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, we always say if you can play at Candlestick, you can play anywhere.
Candlestick Park is very funny.
Yeah, funny. Sometimes not in a ha-ha way. It's always funny. A gust of wind and boom, you've got an infant in your arms. You don't know.
Yeah, I hit a shin guard one time. Brantley's shin guard just flew off into the upper deck and I caught it. It was great.
I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
Oh, man.
And then the day that was terribly embarrassing when Vida Blue got married, we didn't know and we didn't bring a gift.
Name this famous Candlestick personality.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Joe Ringo is right for 10 points.
Thank you, Ralph. Would you be so kind as to rise?
Kind of like Bluto.
Would you be so kind as to rise?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Oh, say, does that star-spangled rainbow banner yet wave. Of the free.
The fans did not always come to Candlestick in great numbers, but armed with fortitude and optimism and warm clothing, the freezing faithful wove themselves into the ballpark's legend. Their loyalty was beyond question, unlike their sanity.
A little wind blowing into the ballpark tonight.
It looks like the lift line at Lake Tahoe.
You know, the fog would just creep in, those fingers would creep in over and just settle down in onto the ballpark. And you wonder, what in the world is going on here? And why in the world are these people still sticking this thing out? Why are they here?
Valley Forge, Bastogne, Candlestick Park.
My legs. Medic. I can't feel my legs.
Hey, easy, kid, easy.
Cold beer?
Well, the whole thing about the weather, I think at one point we finally just decided to exaggerate it to a point. I think it didn't make it any warmer out here, but I think it made people feel a little better about it.
To the fans who hang in there.
I'm going back up there.
Kid, let him go.
Fans would come into the dugout stores and say, you know, I see that quad candlestick, I'll give you $1. I'll give you $5 for it. No. You have to earn the 7-cent button. And so the players bought into the quad candlestick to the point where they were wearing them on their hats.
It was a great crowd to play in front of, and they didn't leave early. They didn't get there in the third and leave in the seventh like our neighbors down south do. They hung, and I thought the reward with the quad candlestick was absolutely hysterical and applicable.
The quad was good counter-programming. The crab was too much counter-programming. We went over the counter-programming edge and hit the bottom of the well.
They'll love it.
All those fans of Giants Land love that crazy crab. Ooh, love that crazy crab. Right in front of Up by the bay, the folks all say, love that crazy crab.
When Crazy Crab would come out and the fans would boo, Duffy Jennings, who was the PR guy, would always get up in the press box and run over to the visiting writers and say, they're supposed to boo him. We want them to boo him. That's the idea, is they're supposed to boo him. See, it's a concept thing where it's kind of against, it's the anti-mascot. Don't think they're just booing him. They're supposed to boo him. That's what we want. And it would go. And it was just, it was so painful.
The first time he went out there, and it was really funny because he was dressing beyond our locker room, and here was this little guy putting this uniform on. And we're telling him, you're not putting on anything underneath. He goes, oh, no, nobody's going to do it. I said, well, everybody's supposed to throw stuff at you.
People were pelting the guy with bottles and old diapers and half a hot dog. And he'd get in front of our dugout thinking he had a reprieve. And then we were pelting him with rosin bags and seeds. And it was great.
I think the whole idea with the crab was don't be good. Don't be good. If you're good, you're fired.
Crazy Crab was great. It just said to the rest of baseball, with a couple of exceptions, you want a mascot? We got your mascot, buddy, right here.
Hey, Frank, need any pinch hitters? I've told you, don't you ever touch me again. Hey, get the hawk!
What I wanted to do was, when we finally retired him, was give everybody in the ballpark a crab cocktail, so it would be like the first time in history where the fans actually wound up eating the mascot. I thought it would be really a cool thing.
Love that crazy crab.
During the early 1970s, Candlestick assumed its present shape. The stadium was enclosed when the 49ers moved in for good. Artificial turf came, and thankfully, went.
We had the hardest turf in baseball, folks. You could drop a golf ball, catch the golf ball right there. Yeah.
The Giants came within an hour of leaving San Francisco entirely, until Bob Lurie came to the rescue. His reward for saving the franchise was a decade and a half spent bemoaning Candlestick and beseeching voters to approve an alternative. In 1992, after a stadium ballot measure failed in San Jose, Lurie felt he had no alternative but to sell. September 27th was to be not only the last baseball game at the Stick, but the last in San Francisco.
It was kind of a very somber day. Not quite as somber as the final day at the Polo Grounds, I'm sure, where people were tearing up the grass and taking it home. The last game at Candlestick, I remember they had quite a bit of security and nobody was allowed in the field because they knew people would do that, you know.
It wasn't tears, it was resignation. When they were gone. They were definitely gone. And the players surprised everybody, I think, by going in and then coming back out and kind of waving goodbye. We'll see. That kind of is when it hit me. This may be the last time we see a baseball team on this field.
It was like walking off thinking, you know, this might be the last game here. And it wasn't a good feeling. You know, I didn't really know how to feel.
Opening day '93, talk about magic. I mean, this was the team that was gone. We had the last game, and it was gone.
I left my heart in San Francisco, high on a hill. It calls to me.
We've got, you know, the new bleachers out in left field. We put the fence out there. We had Sherry Davis, PA announcer. We had the new food. There was a whole new scene out here.
Here's Dusty, Barry, and 57,000 people celebrating this event, this opening day, and then a game that plays according to script.
I was just so happy for being home. My dad was on the same field with me. Dusty Baker, who babysat me, changed my diapers as a kid, was my manager. All my friends that I grew up with were at the game.
When I come home to you, San Francisco, your golden sun will shine for me.
The song says, I left my heart in San Francisco, and a piece of that heart is in Candlestick Park, and so Candlestick will always be special.
In October 1988, Giants pitcher Dave Dravecky had surgery to remove a malignant tumor from his left arm. Just 10 months later, he returned to the major leagues to start a Thursday afternoon game at Candlestick.
I'd come to the point of being diagnosed with cancer and the doctors saying, outside of a miracle, you'll never pitch again. And on August 10th, 1989, I'm standing on the mound getting ready to pitch again. I just stood there on the mound and said, God, I am so grateful for another opportunity. After I threw the first pitch, it was like I had never missed a beat. I could not believe what was happening. I mean, I could have closed my eyes that day. I could have had a blindfold put on me, and I could have thrown strikes.
Some very incredible things happened just that whole day. Aside from Dave coming back and making his comeback, there was a young boy who actually I knew, Alex Vlahos, who was fighting for his life with leukemia. KMBR went on the air and said, hey, let's pledge a dime for every pitch that Dave makes in the game.
You know, $200,000 was raised on that day with every pitch that I threw to help this young boy. That's a part of that day that I will never forget.
And the pitch to Oster is swung on, and this struck him out.
When the game was over, everybody had a lump in their throat because, yeah, we won a ball game, but boy, somebody else won a heck of a lot bigger deal than that.
The winning pitcher is Dave Dravecky. He is now 1-0.
And I think in a city that has gone through so much medical trauma, that there was a particular poignance and a particular interest in him. The Candlestick fans would know more about young men being struck down in their prime than some other cities.
A dream has been realized today. People from all walks of life have joined their favorite sports team for a cause much greater than baseball.
Let's face it, San Francisco is across our chest. We're part of the community. We've got to think about ways to reach out and let people know that we care.
So let the word go out from Candlestick Park that today we are all pilgrims on the road to AIDS.
I think our players had a lot of courage to stand behind the ownership and put on a benefit of this kind for a cause that means as much as it does to the community here. I just felt very proud to be associated with our manager and coaches and players who supported us as much as they did.
They came to the West Coast together from New York with a tradition of rivalry already in place. They faced each other at Seal Stadium in California's first Major League Baseball game. No matter when or where they played, it always meant something. It just seemed to mean more when the Giants played the Dodgers at the Stick.
There's no feeling in the world with a Dodger-Giant rivalry here in San Francisco. It's really mellow in Los Angeles, but here in San Francisco, there's nothing in the world like it. It's like one of the biggest prize fights.
In 1962, Giants manager Alvin Dark used the peculiar conditions of Candlestick to slow down LA's feared base stealer Maury Wills.
You know, he's going to kill us. We got to do something to stop him. He says, wait till you see what I'm going to do. And he wouldn't tell me. He wouldn't tell me that they were going to water down about the 20-foot stretch between first and second base.
Wilson came out and protested, and the umpires looked at, yeah, this is impossible. Bring out the sand and sop that stuff up, and they did that. And the game started. And of course, that was what Alvin wanted, because as he would explain later, he said, you know, no matter how much you soaked it, with the wind blowing and everything, by the third or fourth inning, it would dry out. Once they put the sand down, it was going to be slippery forever. The sand was the thing.
Every time we play each other, used to be some frictions, some fight and some problem. And I love that.
In 1965, tempers exploded under pressure.
They had watered down the field. They'd let the grass grow. The umpires had made them clean the field off and all that. So we were angry with them from the start.
Marichal knocked down a couple of our hitters, mainly Maury Wills, and there was some things were said on the bench.
I gave the sign for Sandy low inside. He threw it low inside. I threw it back right by his nose, and he said, "You better not hit me with that ball." And I went after him.
Marichal was basically blamed for it, which was wrong. Marichal just culminated it by hitting Roseboro with the bat, and he didn't swing the bat at him, he pecked at him. But I guess if you peck with the bat, it's going to hurt yourself.
The same elements combusted again in 1971.
We both got the same mentality. We don't talk, we just hate each other.
Bill Singer hit Willie Mays. Marichal was pitching that night, and he tried to hit Wills 3 times in the knee. The next hitter was Bill Buckner. Marichal buried one right in his ribs. And Bill Buckner walked towards the mound with his bat, and we got all that restored. And I remember that somebody told me later on that when Buckner got to first base, Gaylord went over to him and said, told him, he said, "You think he hit you?" He said, "I'm pitching tomorrow night. I'm really going to drill you."
I think there's more hits in the stands than there are on the field, actually, with everyone fighting and everything.
I hate the Dodgers. Dodgers, bad news.
I hate them. I went to a Dodger-Giant game for the first time when I was 18 years old, just signed with the Dodgers, was stupid enough to wear a Dodgers jacket to the park. I mean, by the 4th inning, they had a dummy lynched in a Dodger jacket in center field, doused it with gasoline, set it afire.
Kill pit. Hit deep to left. Way back.
In this atmosphere, even victories in May were occasions for hysteria. So when the teams met with something on the line, as in October of 1982, the intensity was memorable.
There was 60,000, 58,000 here. Everybody knew that we needed to beat them. Everybody knew we beat the Dodgers, we knock them out of first place for a tie.
The Dodgers just didn't think they could be beat, and it just pissed us off.
So to be able to knock them out, our arch rivals, in a way that was a blow, you know, a dagger, you know, I mean, just a crushing hit.
Morgan belts it high and deep right field. Way back goes Monday to the fence. It is gone! Home run, Joe Morgan! And the Giants lead the Dodgers 5-2.
And all the abuse that they gave us over the years, we were all standing in our chairs just screaming at them as they were coming through and saying, you're going home just like us, and things like that. And, you know, of course, all the Tommy Lasorda one-liners, you know, go eat your pasta, go eat your pizza, you're going home just like us.
I think Lasorda was great. He maybe more than anybody in recent years helped perpetuate that feeling of rivalry.
Tommy loved to go into a lion's den, so to speak, and that was Candlestick Park. All the fans, I'll never forget how riled up they'd get. They'd throw things at him worse than they did for the Crazy Crab.
I take my hat off, I start bowing, and I blow them kisses, and that irritated them even all the more.
But ultimately, this rivalry didn't need a spokesmodel.
Brian Johnson's home run was the single most exciting moment that I ever sat through behind the microphone. And that whole moment started the day before when I drove into Candlestick, and a lot of the fans were here at 4 o'clock. They already were chanting, beat L.A. Then to come back and the Brian Johnson home run was really just a climax to the two most perfect baseball days that I've ever experienced.
Vines, he hits it hard and deep, and listen to this crowd. On the ground, Vizcaino has it, and this one is over. Swinging a chopper to Kent. He has to come home. There's one. The throw to first. Double play. He got out of there. I don't believe it. And he hits one high to deep left field and deep. Hollingsworth is back at the wall. And he's out of there. And this one is over. And
I think the Brian Johnson home run was incredibly meaningful. It really clicked us into a new era. An era where each year we're viewed as contenders, an era where we're viewed as a stable franchise.
An era where it would finally become possible to tell Candlestick Park goodbye. In October, the summer fog lifts and the Bay Area shines. In October, the drama of baseball rises to its highest pitch. There has seldom been October drama like that which has been played out at Candlestick Park.
It's D-Day at Candlestick. 6 months of baseball now spirals to a climax in just one game.
D-Day was indeed a day of momentous decisions. With the Giants trailing 1-0 in the 9th inning of the 7th game, Matty Alou rounded third on May's 2-out double to right.
I was in the upper deck right field, about as far away from the play as you could possibly be. I would have definitely sent him, absolutely.
I think he made the right move. Sure, he might have made it. Probably would have made it. Maybe. That's that last word, maybe.
With first base open, the Yankees faced a decision. Pitch to Willie McCovey or walk him and face Orlando Cepeda.
I told the bat boy, bring me another bat, you know, because they're going to walk Willie. I was getting ready, you know.
And the way Houck told the story, I said to him, what do you want to do? Meaning, do you want to put McCovey on base and pitch to Cepeda? Or he says, and Terry said, I'd just as soon get it over with now.
When Ralph Terry threw the last ball that McCovey hit, and McCovey hit the shot, I mean, that's a well-documented fact, Terry threw his glove up in disgust.
Well, I hit it as good as I could,
you know. If I could have only directed it in a little different direction, but, you know, all you try to ask yourself is to hit the ball, put a good swing on it, and hit it well, which I did.
There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet.
As soon as Richardson caught that ball, I mean, it was like a library. And people just sat there. They could not believe that it was over.
Had that ball got out of his reach, the Giants would have been the winner. Now it's the Yankees who have...
27 years later, another line drive, a different outcome.
Maldonado with the lead from third, Butler off second, Thompson from first in the pitch, and Clark hits it up the middle into center field, base hit! Maldonado scores! Here comes Butler! On his way to third is Thompson, the Giants lead 3-1!
I remember Candlestick was absolutely rocking that day, and as soon as I got the base hit up the middle, people went absolutely berserk, and that still brings goosebumps back.
Webster at second, Walton at first, Bedrosian throws to Sandberg, and the pitch is grounded to second base. Thompson has it, throws to first. It's over. 27 years of waiting have come to an end. The Giants have won the pennant.
You know, it had the fall shadows on the field, and we went out there in the midst of the field, in front of all of the fans that had lived and died. The celebration was just incredible. It was just a total release.
Yeah, that place can rock a little bit. It can rock.
I'll tell you what, we're having an
All of a sudden, boom, and people thought initially it was like a sonic boom. You know, that's what it felt like, and the place kind of shook like it does when there's a sonic boom, and people were kind of going, whoa.
I was in the clubhouse, and it shook pretty good. You could feel like you were on a roller coaster going around.
It felt like about a 600-pound gopher going underneath my legs at 45 miles per hour.
Then everything kind of came to a stop, and it was, you know, wow.
And even when it went away, I mean, everybody cheered. Everybody cheered. Yeah, all right, when we hit the first inning, all right, these are in for now. It was
First time I ever got scared in Candlestick. I got knocked down a lot, but this is the first time I ever got scared. And the ground was shaking, man.
And I walked by Hank Greenwald, who's going the other direction. And I said, they're saying it's a 7.5. Hank Greenwald said, yeah, but the East German judge only gave it a 5.6.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are postponing the game because there is no power in the stadium.
When the earthquake happened, the sense of community almost increased 10 times. But the community was not involved in baseball anymore. It was involved in a crisis. And it was the community that got one another through this. We were all united. We were all on the same plane. There was no wealthy, there was no poor, there were simply people dealing with crisis. And it was the strongest feeling of community that I ever had in my life.
It was so cornball, it was terrific. You'd never, if it was a movie, you would have said, Smaltsy, come on, that's terrible. But people got up and roared it out. San Francisco. It was an anthem. It really was an anthem of, we're still here, we're still going to do this. Part of it was defiant, to stand up and roar it out, San Francisco. We don't cheer in the press box, but every once in a while we sing.
I can't begin to tell you how much you mean to me, Candlestick Park, and so on down the line.
I'm not sad that they're closing Candlestick Park. Believe me, it's long overdue. When I think about Candlestick Park, I think about, you know, the crazy paths that outfielders take on fly balls and how infielders got all messed up on pop-ups with the wind and, you know, hats blowing on, sticking up against the center field wall, you know, and You know, pitchers getting blown off the mound, and you know, you think about all those and you smile.
There is a pride, very big pride, in being able to play here that long, or even 2 days. I mean, you were in the stick. I won't miss it, yeah.
I feel so strongly about this place that I would like a piece of it to take with me. If that were possible, I don't care what it would be, but I would just like a piece of this place to go with me.
I'd like to get a piece of that old AstroTurf from back in the 70s.
And maybe one of the hot dog wrappers that gets stuck on that center field wall in the wind discussion.
The orange 410, because center field, because of Mays. I'd take a McCovey or a Mays, their nameplate where the locker was.
I take some of the lockers. That's what I take, lockers, because they've been like Mays' locker, McCovey's, and Marichel's, and Gaylord's.
Probably the only thing I'd ever really want is my locker, because it was my godfather's locker. That's the greatest baseball player to me in the world, and I had the opportunity to sit in his locker during my career here in San Francisco. I'd like to take the locker with me.
I mean, there's blood, sweat, and tears out there, and this piece of land, this turf out here, linked all of us.
I don't know, there's a special spirit here, something here, man. It's more than a win. It's just a stick.
Boom, boom. How good a life. Counting Jones but not forgotten.
The